Oh hey, I'm Brad. Welcome to my cabin. You know, I allegedly like video games, so I'm gonna do something that no one has ever done before. I'm gonna review them. And I'm gonna start with my personal favorite, Super Mario 64. Yeah, you ever heard of this one? It's only one of the most popular video games to ever exist. You know, it has a small but dedicated fan base to this day. We call ourselves 64 heads. So I just wanted to talk about why I think this game has held up so well.
It's me, Mario!
Now, obviously this game is fantastic because you get to mess around with Mario's face on the title screen. But for real, this is actually a pretty cool demo to get people acquainted to 3D. Yeah, remember this game came out in 1996? The last Mario game looked like this. This was a pretty big step forward at the time. Anyway, let's go over the game basics. Now I'm sure everyone has played this game at one point, but I want to be thorough. So the story is Princess Toadstool, Peach, has invited Mario over to her castle for cake. And of course, Bowser has kidnapped her. Bowser has also stolen these objects called Power Stars, and has used them to give life to the paintings in the castle. I'm not sure why this place is an art gallery, but I guess royalty is cultured like that. There are 7 Power Stars hidden in each world. You get them by performing various tasks. But there will always be 1 star for collecting 8 red coins, and 1 for collecting 100 coins in total. I usually do these together since you'll need to collect the red coins anyway for the 100 coin run. If there was anything I hated about this game, it's the 100 coin stars. They're so tedious. They slow down the pace of the game so much, and if you die before you get to 100, you have to do it all over again. Back to the levels, I think their design is where the true genius of this game really shows. Let's look back at the 2D Mario games for a second. The levels here are all basically obstacle courses. If you directly translated this to 3D, you'd get something like Super Mario 3D World. And it probably would have been fine if they made Super Mario 64 like that. I'm sure people would have liked it. Just look at Crash Bandicoot, it was doing the whole linear platformer thing too, and people still love it. But Nintendo had to show the world what 3D games were capable of, so they made it primarily exploration based, with no time limit. Did you know one of the code names for the N64 was Project Reality? I think that's a pretty fitting name and exactly what they were trying to accomplish with this game. And I don't mean that you can play Mario in VR, although that's actually possible with today's technology. I mean it was trying to bring video games closer to reality. Of course, Mario is obviously pretty cartoonish, but let's take a closer look. First, let's go back to the old Mario games. I love them of course, but they're full of abstractions. Like, you're supposed to accept Mario can only walk sideways. His quest sure would be a lot easier if he could just walk around the Goombas. And what kills Mario when he reaches the time limit? Does he have a heart attack? Let's not forget that there's points too. The levels don't feel like real places either, being that they're two-dimensional and all. And there's a clear distinction between them and the map selection screen. In short, it feels exactly like it is, just a game. But in 3D, you can change all that. The whole game feels more like it takes place in reality, or at least it feels more believable. Like we see how Mario gets to the castle and we never leave his point of view once, since there are no real cutscenes until the ending. And the hub world feels just like a real place. Imagine if this was a map selection screen, that would be real boring. But Nintendo made the castle a living, breathing location. It makes you feel like you're on an actual adventure, not just completing obstacle courses. Now, let's talk a bit more about the designs of these levels. Most of them feel like believable places that could exist, which fits the philosophy of this game perfectly. Look at Hazy Maze Cave here. You've got a map to all these locations, and all of them serve the purpose of making it feel like a real mine. You've got caverns, you've got a maze with toxic gas, that sort of thing. But then there's some that feel like they're beta test levels. Look at Lethal Lava Land here. What is this place supposed to be? It all feels like things are just randomly placed everywhere. Rainbow Ride is also like this. If you know what purpose these tricky triangles would actually serve, please tell me. But since its whole gimmick is barely having any ground, it makes a nice final challenge, so I give it a pass. except that I hate waiting on these magic carpets to get to different parts of the world, especially when I fall off. Every couple of stars you get to face off against Bowser. You know how you defeat him? You grab him, spin the control stick, and launch him into a bomb. It's times like this that I remember the whole game is actually a tutorial on how to use an analog stick. Again, 3D was brand new. You spin Bowser around, you run around poles to get coins, you run around enemies to kill them. I get it, but damn! You know how the Wii made you flail the controller around like an idiot? It feels exactly like that. And speaking of Bowser, I gotta say, he looks pretty off-model. He looks awesome in the official renders, but my god, what happened here? Mario himself looks a bit off-model too. Actually, the whole game does. Mips the Rabbit doesn't even have arms. Koopa the Quick's eyes always bothered me too. They look like they're actually the top of his head. I guess it doesn't help that he blinks with just his pupils. I understand it's early 3D, but man oh man does it not hold up. I'm not gonna harp too much on the graphics though. I like the look of low polygonal games. It's just that I think they could have modeled everything a bit better. They probably could have hidden the edges of the world better too. Also, having half the objects in the game be 2D sprites is a bit distracting, especially when you're upscaling the game like me. And since we're talking about the graphics, I guess we should talk about the music too. This game's got some pretty iconic tracks. I'm sure everyone knows the main theme. And everyone loves Dire Dire Docks. It's a pretty calming song, I could see why. But I think the most famous song in the game is the one called Slider. I guess it's because it's the most hectic one. But my personal favorite is Bowser's theme. The power-ups in this game are pretty cool too. Gone are super mushrooms and fire flowers, but we got hats! There's the wing cap, which lets you fly, the metal cap, which turns you invincible, and the vanish cap, which turns you intangible. I think the wing cap's the coolest, since the other caps you really just need to solve simple puzzles with, but flying is fun on its own. There's also the Koopa Shell, which lets you ride around the level super fast and kill everything in your path. You can also use it underwater, but it's almost completely useless. There's one other thing that I really like about this game, and it's something I don't think the developers really intended. I always found this game to be really mysterious. First, look at the sign in the courtyard. Rumors spread for years that this sign said L is real, and that meant Luigi was somehow unlockable in the game. Of course he isn't, but myths like this are pretty fun. I find the skyboxes to be a bit mysterious as well. Yeah, I'm talking about skyboxes now. Some of them are pretty abstract. Others show things in far-off locations. It just inspires a bit of wonder in me. Wet Dry World skybox deserves special mention. I've seen a lot of people wonder exactly what this is supposed to be. Is it Atlantis? I've heard it's some town in Spain, but that doesn't really explain anything. Shh! Please walk quietly in the hallway. What does that mean? The control in this game is also phenomenal. You have a lot of movement options and Mario is perfectly responsive. I think that's one of the reasons this game has lived on. There are just so many ways you can get the power stars. I think that's why speedrunners love this game so much. That, and there's a ton of glitches. While we're on this subject, I think I should mention the other reason I love this game so much. The community. I guess that technically has nothing to do with the game itself, but I think the community can either make or break a game. Remember the Sonic fanbase? Yeah. Well, Super Mario 64 has one of the best communities in gaming. I know that's a big claim, but hear me out. So, let me transport you back to the magical era of the mid-2000s. YouTube was brand new. Just imagine, anyone could make a video and share it with the world. And what we got was everyone making these things called Super Mario 64 bloopers. Now these things weren't really bloopers. What they were, well, I'll show you. First, record everything with HyperCam 2. Second, and this is very important, you need music by Scatman John. Who is Scatman and what does he have to do with Mario? Just don't question it, okay? We also need to give Mario a wacky color code. Then, add some Windows Movie Maker effects. Finally, we need to make Mario get hurt a lot. You know, these things were actually pretty funny at the time. Or at least I thought so. Admittedly, I was 12 and I thought Superhero Movie was the funniest thing ever made, so, you know. The speedruns for this game are amazing. I personally like the tool-assisted speedruns, which a lot of people think are cheating for some reason. But they're pretty impressive, I say. There's a lot of planning and work that goes into them. I love seeing a game pushed to its absolute limits. And Super Mario 64 can be beaten in under 5 minutes. You don't even have to collect 1 star. You don't even need to do the first Bowser fight. See, you can exploit a glitch called Parallel Universes in order to enter the door under the castle moat. And speaking of Parallel Universes, I'd like to talk about the other big section of the Mario 64 community. The A-Button Challenge crew. The A-Button Challenge is exactly as it sounds. You play the entire game pressing A the least amount of times as possible. As of right now, that number is 1 for the N64 version. But there's a whole group of people dedicating their lives to save A presses at any costs. The most famous member is a guy named Panenkoic. It's no wonder his channel is super interesting. In addition to the A-Button Challenge videos, he has a ton of documentation about just how the game works. Want to learn how walls, floors, and ceilings work? He's got you covered. You'd think videos like this would be pretty dry, but they're actually pretty entertaining. He makes learning fun. I think that's all I gotta say about Super Mario 64. For now, at least. So let's look at the ending. It's pretty nice, because Mario gets a kiss. Well, a kiss on the nose, but that's still a kiss. And you get to see all the levels again when the credits roll. I like when games do that. The credits theme is pretty nice too. And when all's said and done, Mario finally gets what he wanted all along. A big old cake.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
I guess the cake wasn't a lie after all.